All right, it looks like we are live. We can see we've got some people joining us here. Excellent, lots of people in the room. So let's make sure that everybody can hear us okay. I'm going to go ahead real quick and I'm going to post a message above the chat here. So when you see the message above the chats, go ahead and let us know your role and your organization in the chat, please. Let's check that everybody is here with us. Whoa, lots of good mornings coming in. Excellent. Okay, Kirsten, you mentioned that there's no sound. Just let us know if you can hear us now, please. Let's check that that's working. I suspect it's going to be quite important to have sound on this webinar. Perhaps someone else can just confirm that they can hear us as well. Morning, morning. And then if someone can just confirm that they can hear us as well, please. Then we know we're good to go. I also see, okay, perfect. Thanks, Georgie. I also noticed that nobody has responded to that chat just yet. So you'll see just above the chat, there's a question there. We're asking, let us know your role and your organization. So go ahead and do that for us now, please. Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for those responses. Perfect. Ahmed, thank you very much. You're the first to get us started there. So thank you. So welcome everybody to the second webinar in our webinar series with CFO South Africa. We're super grateful and thankful to have everyone here today. It's super exciting to be working with everybody once again, and we've got some really, really exciting information that Ninka Kruger is going to be sharing with us today. And also, most importantly, we are also going to be sharing some of the other webinars that we'll be hosting in a full series of our webinar series events. So after our session here today, keep an eye out where we'll be sharing, number one, a link where you can go ahead and register for all of the upcoming webinars. And you'll also be able to see a full agenda on the cfo.co.za/events page, where we'll have a full list of all the webinars too. So looking forward to connecting with you both today and next week as well. If you've been to any of our events in the past, perhaps something like the Finance Indaba, or maybe some of our other CFO related events, you know that we are very much a community organization, and really this is all about you. So please don't be shy. The chat is there for a reason. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas. Engage with us, interact with us. Type your thoughts and ideas there. We'll be sure to reference them as well. And then most importantly, we want to hear from you. So any questions you have for Ninka, go ahead and type them in the chat. One of our colleagues will be keeping an eye out for those, and we'll be sure to answer those today. And if we don't get around to answering them today, you'll receive a private message from us, either over email or LinkedIn with those specific answers, because as I say, this is all about you. So by way of introduction, I'd like to introduce Ninka Kruger, who's the product manager for Caseware Africa. Caseware Africa and Adapt IT have been a very long-standing partner of the CFO South Africa community. So super excited to have them here today, and really, really, really looking forward to our next session over the next 60 minutes. So without further ado, Ninka, I'm going to ask you to come on camera, do a quick introduction for us, and then once you've done that, what do you say we jump into our slides and share some of those poll questions as well with all of our friends here online today. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. Thanks, John, and thanks all for joining me today. I am a bit new to this webinar thing, so I've got two screens. If I'm not looking at you, please do not feel offended. It's just two screens. I've joined Adapt IT about a year ago, and before joining, I was consulting with clients to assist in drafting financial statements, and I worked very closely with the corporate as well as the audit market, and I gained a lot of valuable insights in various of industries. And it's really now a privilege for me to be in this development space because this can influence the products that we use every day. Today I'm going to talk to you about automation of financial statements and specifically interim financial statements that we recently launched. But I would first like to give you a bit of history and details on how we as an industry got where we are today. So let me just get my slides going here. Excellent. Okay, so if we think about the history of financial industry, I've not planned at all for this year, but I find myself studying, again, grade 3 homeschooling. And as a subject matter, we are doing Egypt. So I found out some interesting facts about Egypt. And accounting has been part of the history, and there's even evidence of bookkeeping found in Egypt as far as 2000 BC. And this bookkeeping was done by having a basic write-up of what services were performed or goods were sold. And this was mainly to have an idea of how the business was doing and perhaps which produce were successful. Complexity and the double entry bookkeeping system came much later in the 1300s. And after that, it exponentially grew to this high quality reporting standard that we have today. But the essence of it is all the same. The investor, being a sole proprietor in early Egypt, or the board members today have the need to have an oversight of how the business is doing. Except for the investor requirement, there's mainly two drivers to produce financial statements, being legal and regulatory. But there are also a vast number of other stakeholders that consumes the information in the financial statements. So what is contained in the financial statements and in the annual reports? Firstly, in the financial statements, we've got financial reporting requires us to keep accounting records, but also to produce financial statements, boards and shareholder approvals and audits. And normally in South Africa, we either comply with IFRS or the SME standards, as most of you will know. These standards provide users with the ability to compare reporting from different industries and also know how transactions should be accounted for. Then we have a step up and we have annual reports. And annual reports give those responsible for running the business to present the assessment of the risk and opportunities the business has faced and is facing currently. And with our current situation, this becomes very much more relevant. This is not only financial statement information, but also alternative performance measures that adds another level of complexity to the user. I do, however, see that annual reporting retaining its unique position as an audited summary of business shaped by global acceptance financial reporting standards and remaining a cornerstone of corporate reporting. So what is our responsibility in all of that? Financial reporting standards are designed to shape the information that a business presents to the providers of capital to the entity. When those providers do not have direct access to information from inside the entity, and investors today are very blessed in this regards, or they may be swamped with data from companies that is from various sources. The accounting profession is evolving, and one of the responsibilities are to take a lead in helping investors to filter through all the noise of the growing volume of data to get the right signals by providing assurance and developing standards for broader and more dynamic information. If we then have a look at interim financial statements specifically, so interim financial statements is a very unique set of financial statements, and it is regulated by IAS 34, which is an IFRS standard, and this standard defines the requirements for condensed interim financial reporting. But it does, however, not say who must comply with this. It just says if you do need to do interims, this is how you need to do it. So in South Africa, the biggest requirement for interim reporting is because of the JSE listing requirements. So all listed entities have to produce semi-annual interim financial reports. But if we look further to that, and especially as we investigated building this product, we've realized there's actually quite a few other scenarios where people also require interim financial statements. One of those scenarios is when you are in the mining industry. Because it's such a volatile market and because the investors want to keep a close eye of what's going on, they have also to produce semi-annual or even quarterly interim reporting. And this is then presented to either the funding house or the insurance company, or it might just be for the investors. Then we also have the requirement for subsidiaries of listed international companies to produce these reports. So all of these entities, although the means of why they're doing it, and they're not all regulated by the listing requirement, they have to comply with IAS 34. So furthermore, to the standard, as we investigated what we need to do, we also look at different kinds of reports that is out there in the market to get an idea of what is the norm that his clients are doing. And we found it quite interesting that clients are actually putting in a lot more of information that is necessarily required. And it always seems to, if there is a trend, then they rather put in more than less by risk of being non-compliant. And it's so ironic because the essence of the IS 34 standard is to disclose material items, but the amount of disclosure in some of these reports are completely overwhelming. And from a user perspective, it becomes very hard to dig through all of this information. If we look at annual financial statements, we found the same feedback from the JSE, but also globally, that is this overwhelming amount of information, and both of these have actually went on a decluttering exercise to encourage people to really only show material items that is relevant to your company, to your industry, or to the stakeholders, even in your annual financial statements. So as you are mostly aware, this is a very generic timeline of how it looks for a typical company. So this is one company, it's got 3 subsidiaries, and they have to produce quarterly financials. So if you have a look at a visual of how many reporting deadlines there are, it becomes quite overwhelming. And it is also, some of it is all together for the year end, and you have to do a lot of work at once. But then there's also ones like the XBRL reporting, which is linked to your registration date. So you have to keep track of those. It also needs to happen during the year. So this is, for most of you, probably very familiar, but it is quite stressful to think about all these deadlines that you have to adhere to during the year. And unfortunately, I can't say reporting is going to change. I think it's, if we look at it, it's just going to get more. But we are, at Caseware, are passionate to make this as efficient and as easy as possible from a compliance perspective, but also by automating certain things as far as we can to make sure that you rather spend your time and expertise in analyzing the end product than getting caught up in the admin of doing this. So if we look at automation in general, one of the most important ways to achieve the ever-expanding requirement is to automate as far as possible. Automation is taking those labor-intensive tasks that we have and streamline it to make it possible for you to be as efficient as possible. One of the steps in automation is to cut out all the duplication of efforts, and that is what we keep in mind when we build the interim financial statement solution. The interim financial statements is part of the annual financial statement process and therefore not in isolation anymore. It also populates from one data source, and therefore you can produce variable reporting requirements. And one data source means that there is consistently mapping, adjustments, and are automatically included in the next period. Automation is one of the key features, and we have to embrace it where possible, as this will enable us to embrace a change and in our profession as it just continues to grow exponentially. So with that, I'm going to give a pause, and I'm going to ask John if we can maybe do our poll that we've prepared.
Sure
to
thing,
just get a better idea of our crowd out there.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do that. We've actually got 4 polls, so keep an eye over the chat. I'm going to go ahead and start the first one now. So first things first, are you currently a Caseware user? Go ahead and let us know yes or no. We'll give you some time to go ahead and respond to that, and then we'll get the other 3 up. I'm not sure if you can see the stats moving up and down, Ninka. Almost 50-50.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Let's say we'll give you about another 10 seconds or so, and then we'll publish the results so that everyone can see them. Gee whiz, so we've gone from almost 50-50. Now the scale's really tipping in the opposite direction. Okay, let's go ahead and publish those poll results now, so you should be able to see them over the chat. If someone in the chat can just confirm that you can actually see the results there. For those of us who can't, we can see that 25% of the room are currently Caseware Africa clients. So that's really good to see some of your returning friends here, Ninka. That's really awesome. Cool. What do you say we get some of our other polls up as well? Alrighty. So our next one is, do you prepare IFRS or SME financials? Go ahead and let us know as well, please. You should see those displaying on your screen over on the right-hand side again. There we go. We're getting some responses. Okay. Again, almost at an equal match there. We'll give you another 10 or 15 seconds. Just doing a quick test of the room, seeing where everybody's at. Wow, 50-50. Okay, looks like most of our responses are in there. We'll give you 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Wow, look at that, Ninka. We ended on exactly 50-50 each. Perfect. So half our room are involved with IFRS and the other half SME. Excellent. Thank you very much for responding to those. And then let's have a look at our third one. So do you prepare consolidated financial statements? Once again, go ahead and let us know, yes or no. Okay, thanks for letting us know that you can't see the results. No worries. I will share them with us here so we can see. Waiting for a couple more responses there. Let's give you about another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so we can see, Ninka, that 55% of our room here are already preparing their consolidated financial statements. And let's take a look at our final poll as well. Do you prepare interim financial statements? Go ahead and let us know. Yes or no? See, we've had a few more people join us. Welcome to the session. Really great to have you all here. For those of us who missed the first part of the segment, you'll all be receiving a recording of today's session an hour after we close out here today. Okay, getting some results coming in there. Okay, so that's really leaning towards no at this stage. Again, we'll give you about another 5 seconds or so to respond. Alrighty, and 3, 2, 1. All right, so we can see that within our room here, 36% of us are already involved in preparing interim financial statements. 63% of us are not, and apparently 1% of us, we're not quite sure. What do you think about those stats, Ninka, and how does that affect the demo we're about to do?
So it's very interesting because we only have, I think I will do a little bit more to IFRS to show you actually the interim and the IFRS bit, as it's quite a few clients that it's not our current clients. And yeah, it's interesting, the IFRS and SME, I think that's always interesting to see because we see more and more the market going to prepare SMEs where they can, but there is still a lot of international companies, especially that prefer to do IFRS. There's always kind of see how that move happens and how that affects the crowd.
Okay, perfect.
Cool, so I am going to share my screen and then I'm going to take you through the demo. So for the people that do know Caseware, this will be a very familiar screen, as this is where it all starts. And I'm going to take you through it as a base, and then I'm going to specifically look at the IFRS and the interim financials. So as I've mentioned, a big part for us that was important when we developed this product was to have both of these reports in one document, because then it can read from the same data source and you already have your mapping, your journals, all already in the same file. And you really have the same data source. And I think that's very, very important because then you don't have version 1 or version 2 or version 600 and final. So you really can be sure that the final numbers that are in here is used for all your reporting requirements. So that was a big driver for us to have it in the same file. So how it works is you will import your TB. You can also directly import from your accounting system. I think there's currently more than 50 that you can directly import from, and you can get your data into Caseware. And then one of the first things that you have to do if you are a brand new Caseware user is you have to map it. And we are very familiar with our mapping structure, because this is the backbone of all your reporting. And how you map your accounts is what will produce in the financial statements, interim or annual. Because you have the consistency year on year, whatever your mapping was in the previous year will always roll forward, and you'll have that automation and efficiency year on year. You also will now have it between your annual financials and your interim financials, because you cannot map an account in two places. It is either bank charges or it is bank charges. So for that reason, this is really the backbone of how the financials are driven. As you can see, you have mapping structure here that includes all your mapping numbers. This also enables you, if you do a group set and you maybe have different subsidiaries with different accounting system, that you can map it at the same place, that you have the right results, even if your accounting numbering or accounting systems is not the same. So that also empowers you quite a lot. Then if I talk about journals, you can write your journals here, and this will update your TB automatically. And as your TB is updated, that is a new figure that will pull to your financials. So like I said, if you have a journal that you need to write here, let's see if I've got actually one in here. So there was my elimination journal that I've passed. So that will automatically update my TB and all the reports. And once again, as I said, because it comes from the same data source, you can be sure that it's the same in all your reports and there's no discrepancies between them.
Ninka?
Right. Yeah.
Is it possible to increase the view just a little bit to make it a little bit bigger?
Sure. Let me see. I definitely can. I got on this one. As soon as I jump into the financials, I will do that.
Perfect.
Okay. Then the last thing that I want to show you here. Now John has completely let me lost my trail of thought. Here you go, is your consolidation feature. So you can have as big a structure or a smaller structure as you need to. And like I've mentioned, each one of them is independently, but they all use the same mapping structure. So if my holding company is using accounting system 1, subsidiary accounting system 2, then the accounts can be mapped and you have a result that is consistent through all your financials. Then if we jump into our interims, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger that you guys can see nicely. Is that good, John?
Let's have a quick look. Yeah, that looks good to me. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So I'm first going to show you the interims, and then I'm also going to show you a little bit of the annuals, because I do think it's important to understand what the difference is in the report. So what we've built in here, which is different to your annual financials, is all this settings at the top, and it can look very overwhelming, but it's really to give the user the flexibility to produce the interim reports that they require. So if I look here, you can do semi-annual, but you could also do monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, and yearly. And if we look then at your statement type settings, you can switch it on, switch off whatever columns you need, and you also have your variance columns. So if I produce semi-annual financials, this is typically the columns that I will use. I'll have my current interim period, my prior interim period, and then my prior year-end date. But as soon as I go to quarterlies, I want to show quarter 1 or quarter 2 and quarter 1 comparatives, and then these columns will be switched on. So to switch them on is very simple. It's just a yes, and then you'll see at the bottom the screen changes, and that includes those figures. And because you have all your TBs imported, you can really produce the reports that you require. So this is new for interims. It's not something that we do have in our annuals because we don't really have the need to have it there. And this makes it quite functional for all the different settings that you require. Then something else that we've added in here, specifically to your interim IS 34 requirements, is you have your accounting policies that's a lot more condensed. So you'll only refer to your annual financials, as that's the only requirement that you do have. And that is also gives you the functionality to either show everything or only show your accounting policies referring to your annual financials that it was included in. Then your interim related notes is your brand new section with all your listing requirements. So this is the JC notes that they require that you have to have included. And you can simply select the ones that you need. I should actually open some of them, switch them on, and you can complete the information we needed. Then what we found is when we built the product, when we looked at some of especially the other African entities, they show for each note what we call a trial balance note. So any note that is in your statement, they would want to see what the breakdown of that is. For example, a trade and other receivable note. So this is not a listing requirement for them or a requirement from the standard, but this is actually something that they do because somebody has started to do it and they are now, everybody's incorporating it. So it's not wrong to do it, but it is, some items might not be material and it can clutter the interim financials, but we do understand that there's sometimes the need to do that. And for that reason, we have included the functionality on each of your notes to have the text section of the table that you want at the top, or then that you can type in your little narration if it is really something material that happened. So this gives the users more the flexibility to actually produce what they want to produce and not necessarily what is just a listing requirements. Okay, and then if I jump into your annual financials, you can just see. So what I actually first want to show you here is if you compare the two next to each other. Now I wonder if this is going to work because I've got so many screens open, but there we go. So on the left-hand side, you will see this is your interim financial statements, and on the right-hand side is your financial statements. So this will be your audited results for prior year. And if you see here, this is exactly the same as this column here. So this gives you the consistency because of your mapping of your trial balance. Right. And then if I just make our annuals a little bit bigger, for those that do not know it, if we then look at, for example, our trade and other receivable note that we were now busy looking at, the top part is exactly the same that you will have in your interim financials, but then because of all the IFRS 9 lovely disclosure that went through, we actually have all the disclosure at the bottom. So the interim financials is really a condensed version of the same features and functionalities that we do have in the annual financial statements. And then maybe the last thing that I'd like to highlight is another of the reporting requirements that you do have is XBRL. And that's why we have embedded XBRL in the annual financials, which will give you, after you've drafted the annual financials, the ability to export your report that you require for SIPC, and you can submit it on their website. So because it's pre-tagged, we also believe this will save you a lot of time and will give you the efficiency in not having to tag financials after it's been compiled. So that is the demo from me today. I think we are going to do a few questions quickly.
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and do that. So you'll notice in the chat we've also posted a comment there. So go ahead and let us know any questions that you have. While we're waiting for that, Narayan Shumba, I see that you've requested to speak. If I could ask you just to go ahead and type your question in the chat, we'll be happy to go ahead and address that. And while we are waiting for some of those chats to come in, I think I'm going to ask you to jump on camera as well. Just a couple of... No trouble. Just a couple of questions from my side. I'd just like to kick things off. So, of course, a lot of us are already using Excel, and we are currently reporting in Excel, and it's working 100% okay. So what is actually the most compelling reason for us to move from our traditional way of working in Excel to our automated process through Caseware?
So Excel, I think we're all very fond of, and I'm really not going to take anything away from it because we can't imagine working on computers without it. But I think the biggest challenge is if there's changes, especially those last minute changes, and now there's a mapping change or a journal change or whatever the case might be, and then you get those lovely ref errors, which I'm sure a lot of us work through the night to actually fix them, because then you have to go back and trace the problem. So I think that's the first thing. And I think then secondly is the complexity compliance. I mean, you have then to invest. You have to invest the time to make sure whatever updates there is in disclosure or standards or listing or whatever the case might be, you have in your Excel file. So I think it becomes quite an onerous process to keep the compliance up to date.
Okay. So it does sound as though it's a lot more streamlined and maybe live always with all the changes that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. We had a bit of a chat about this in advance, and you mentioned that when people do move from the traditional Excel over to a more kind of automated system like Caseware, you said that there's a lot of time that's saved. So are there stats or some metrics on the sort of average amount of time people are saving on interim reporting as an example?
So I suppose it depends on how streamlined you are. But I think if you run, I don't have the stats to say it is X amount of time, but I think as a finance professional, you're always looking to automate these things because you'll have the next thing that you have to do. So if you can do it as quick and easy as you can, then you can move on to the next thing. The biggest save, like I say, is compliance. If you now have to take your time that you have to go and read each and every standard in detail, understand it, comprehend it, and then put it in Excel, it really is a lot of time that you do save. And the other one is with the mapping. If you have your mapping is updated and only new accounts you have to go and map, it gives you that comfort that you know what you are producing is the right numbers. Because I do feel if you don't do that, you're going to have that question mark the whole time that if it's actually everything that you should disclose is actually all my accounts are mapped, everything is included. So it gives you that level of comfort that you wouldn't have otherwise. Okay,
perfect. Thanks so much for that one. And then what do you find that now finance professionals who've moved over to Caseware, they are automating their reporting. What is some of the extra stuff that they are doing with their time now?
So I think the most important thing that you want to end up doing as a finance profession is to add value to your business. So you want to be able to see what this data actually mean and what this reporting actually mean. So can you include it in your budget? If you can produce this quicker, you can use it in your forecast, you can use it in your budget, you can run the business more effectively. And I think that's really where you want to be. You don't want to be reporting on information that is past, but you can't actually take that information into account when you plan for the future. You want it to be relevant, and as soon as you can get it finished, it can be very relevant and you can apply it going further. And I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. Stunning. In your mind, which are the organizations or industries that should be really considering this or looking towards this automation if they haven't done so already? I mean, companies in the listed space, of course, it's a no-brainer, but who else?
Oh, I think everybody should. I think where it's become more and more, and where you can actually save on time, you absolutely should. So I don't think it's specifically to a market or industry or being SME or IFRS. I think everything that you can automate and be more efficient, you should.
Okay, perfect. Now, it sounds really awesome and everything sounds super hunky-dory, but what is the reality about sort of implementation times? I can imagine getting the mapping to work out and align is a bit of a nightmare as well.
So there's definitely the first year that you're on board, there is additional time that you need to spend to get that aligned of what you've reported in the previous year. So it just depends on what level did you do it in the previous year. Do you have the background or don't you have the background of what made up those numbers? So the first year there is investment in time to get that right and up and running. But it's worthwhile because then you're going to bear the fruit. Even if you just do the financials for that year, you're really going to see a saving in time. As your journals and everything is in there, it's rolling forward to the next year. So there's definitely savings from year one. But in mapping, initial investment time is needed, yes.
Okay. So let's give our friends on the call here some assistance and some support. So people who have joined our session here today, they could be excited and they're interested to go ahead with this, but they've got one of those old school or very experienced bosses who doesn't believe in automation. Everything must be done in Excel. How can you help them present a compelling case where they can get some buy-in from their boss to actually even consider something like this?
So that's quite a hard one. But I think you have to embrace the change. I think you have to see the benefit. I think what I've done in my previous clients is I will give them a visual, and I think that's actually what people want at the end, is they can see, like with my data you can produce this, and you can save so much time. Or if they can understand the pain that you currently have with Excel, then maybe they will be more open to it. But it might be a hard sell. Some people are quite this is the way we're doing it. So yeah.
Old school.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Ninka, can you share some recent client wins? Obviously, you don't have to mention the client or the partner's name, but just give us maybe a bit of an overview of the backstory, what maybe the challenge was during the implementation, and now post-implementation, some of the benefits that they're receiving.
So I can maybe share one of our clients. They're quite a big group. They are, I think they're about 30 entities within 2 consoles that they do. So their challenge was like the underlying subsidiaries would have a change, and then it wasn't affected in the console. And in Excel, that becomes an absolute nightmare because the deadlines are insane. Have to report like a month after year end, and it just becomes really like nobody sleeps for a month. So what for them was the big win is that because your subsidiaries are linked to your console, if you do update anything in your subsidiary and you go back into your console file, you get like a message to say something have changed. Do you want to implement it? Don't you want to implement it? So, and that's then automated into your console. So because of that, they were able to streamline the whole console process very much, and was very much more efficient in the next year. And then also what helped in the next year going forward is that actually you can make your journals recurring. So if you look at a group like that, I think they had 250 elimination entries, and you can make them recurring. So they automatically roll forward to the next year, and you only have to go and do the current year transaction. So it just becomes a time-saving a process, little bits everywhere. So yeah, they were very happy then. And they met the deadline, and everybody slept. So it was a good day.
Oh, everyone slept and met the deadline. Sounds like a pretty successful year then.
Yes.
Cool. Ninka, I see that we've received a couple of questions here in the chat, so I'm going to zone in on some of those, and then I think we'll be cool towards the end of our session here. I know that there's a brochure that we'll be sharing with everybody. We'll also be sharing a brief video kind of overview as we close out the session. But then it would be cool if you could either share your contact details or the correct contact person at Caseware for anyone who's interested. So cool. Natasha, I'm going to start with you. So your question was, how functional is Caseware to link to a reporting system such as Hyperion instead of directly to your ERP?
So, Natasha, historically, we always link to accounting systems. And as the need arises, we actually look at different systems to include them. So the functionality is there. We have the tech team that can work and get that up and going. But obviously, as the market asks for it, we look more into it. So, so it is kind of a development that we do on a need basis, just because there is so many systems out there.
Cool. Natasha, also let us know in the chat if you have a follow-up question to that. While we waiting for you to respond, I see Maseshaba Masemola asked, when you import the TB, is it linked to the current financial reporting system, or is it in an Excel upload?
So you can do both. You have direct import. Like I said, I think there's about 50 direct imports now that you can do directly from your accounting system. But then if you maybe have one that's not on there, or we also have some accountants or financial managers that maybe a bit more control, so they want to export it, check that it balances, and then import it, then you can also do that. So you can always import from Excel, but you also have the functionality to directly import from certain accounting packages.
Okay, cool. So we've got both options available for the security conscious and the over analyzers as well. So that's good. Cool. I see Jojo's asking about APIs, so it's probably quite similar to your response to Natasha. So Jojo is saying, does Caseware support APIs? Is there a software developer profile or kit where we can internally customize to our different operational, non-financial systems for commentary?
Wow, thanks, Jojo. we are working with APIs because we do currently, that's how we get the online validation from SIPC and XBRL, and we're currently working on that. But if you don't mind, I would like to actually reach out to you and just have a little bit of better understanding of what your requirements are, and we can maybe take it from there. You can share the contact details with me, John, right?
Yeah, sure. I've got Jojo.
Perfect.
That was answered like a true politician there. Very good. Cool. Let's see what else we have here. I see Gerry Olivier is saying, do you still have discounts if you buy Caseware via your CA membership? And is there a discount if you want to buy Caseware just for one entity?
So Gerry, I just said to John before, I'm not in sales, I'm in product, but we have partnerships with SAPA and SAICA. I cannot say offhand what the discount is, but there is definitely relations with them, and I can get one of the salespeople to let you know exactly what there is.
Yeah, cool. So someone in the CFO South Africa team, please just keep a reminder out to get back to Jojo and Gerry as well.
Gerry.
And then Ronaldo Mojale is saying, does Caseware support public service financials on MCS?
So Ronaldo, we do have public sector templates. We have MSCOA, we've got Ipsos, and we've got Grab. These are 3 templates that we do have. So yes, we do support them.
Cool, good to hear. And then I see our friend, it's either Jean or Jean, who, shame, they're joining us from Mauritius. What a terrible place to be located. And they're asking, how much does all the software cost and the maintenance? I guess this goes back to our sales inquiry from earlier.
Yes, so there is different pricing structures for different people. So I just think it will be easier if they can actually help you directly to give you the correct numbers.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So everybody who has responded in the chat, will be sure to get back to you if we didn't answer your question here today. If there are any other questions that you have, please feel free to share them now. And then, Nick, I'm just going to ask you for some final thoughts. And then I know you have a short video for us. And then we'll share your Caseware Africa brochure. And then we'll send everybody on their way and let them know about some of the other upcoming webinars.
So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining today. It's really, it's nice to, I wish I could see all the faces at least, but thank you for joining. And please reach out if there's anything more that you want from us.
Cool. Thanks, Nika. What do you say we go ahead and play that Caseware video now?
Thank you, yes.
Cool, let's do that.
Automate your interims with Caseware Africa's interim financial statement template. Automation is one of the key strategies driving financial reporting because it reduces manual intervention and makes the process both more streamlined and accurate. Until now, the market has lacked an automated solution to easily prepare interim financial statements. Our new interim financial reporting template will help you to ensure that you are compliant, simplify the importing of data from multiple periods, unify the reporting process across an entity with seamless integration into our IFRS template, consolidate multiple entities quickly and easily, increase consistency and efficiency across the financial reporting process, prepare IAS 34 compliant interim condensed financial statements, create explanatory notes as required by the IAS 34 standard, as well as easily including specific requirements for exchanges like the JSE, NSE, and other listing requirements and market trends. When you use both Caseware's interim and IFRS financial reporting templates together, the same datasets prepare both the interim and annual financial statements, which significantly reduces the risk of errors and the time needed to create the engagements. The template can be adjusted to produce semi-annual, quarterly, bi-monthly, and monthly financial statements. Caseware Africa, a division of Adapt IT, the leader in financial reporting solutions.
Apparently, it really helps when you turn your audio on when you're talking. So that's always a good start. Ninka, there's a question there from Ronaldo saying that would your sales team be able to do a demo for them?
Yes, definitely. So what I will do, if I'll just put my email address in the chat, and if there's any requests like that or anything else, you guys can just reach out to me. But we'll definitely can do a webinar demo, definitely.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Ninka, I want to say thank you once more for giving us a really interesting and insightful overview in terms of automating our reporting. I know that I took a lot out of today's session, so thank you very much for sharing your time and positive energy with us. And of course, thank you to our good friends, Caseware Africa and Adapt IT. We're super grateful for our ongoing partnership. And most importantly, thank you very much to all of our attendees. Thank you to the CFO community for joining us here today. You'll see we've got some other upcoming presentations. So next week, Thursday, we'll be hosting another webinar, which is going to be all around RPA. So again, it ties in with our automation theme. Actually, Ninka, I'm just going to ask you to turn your camera off, and I'll do the same. It's just blocking the URL there. So you can see next week, Thursday, we'll be hosting a webinar with Treasury One and Automation Anywhere. And the focus is all going to be around robotic process automation and how we can go about streamlining our processes, taking away some of those really mundane and repetitive tasks, and in the process, just freeing up a bit of time for ourselves. And then a week afterwards, this is really good if you're looking to catch fraud in your organization, or perhaps if you've been committing fraud and you're trying to cover your tracks, this is the webinar that you want to attend. So we'll see, we've got Claudel van Eck, who's a long-standing friend in the community and the former CEO of the IIA. We've got Mario Fazakas, who's a certified fraud examiner. And then we'll have Brad Sadler, who's a reformed fraudster, actually. So we'll be getting 3 very unique views there. If someone from the CFO South Africa team could just go ahead and type the URL in the chat for us to the cfo.co.za/events page, then everybody can keep an eye on the upcoming webinars. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week, Thursday. So go ahead, stay safe, stay warm, and we look forward to reaching out to you again next week. If there's any other questions for either the CFO South Africa team, perhaps you have some ideas on webinars that you'd like to view and attend, let us know. You all have my email address. You can go ahead and drop me a mail. I'll be more than happy to respond to you. And of course, if you need to reach out to anyone over at Caseware Africa or to Ninki directly, you can see her email address in the chat. If you need me to put the 2 of you in touch, I'll be more than happy to do so as well. And thank you once again for joining us here. We're going to go ahead and close out our session. Thanks for joining. Stay safe, stay warm, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, everybody.